Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 grand, Ross for The Rock Never Stops. I'm going to continue doing the whole preseason thing, just highlighting certain games that are good matchups that are going to give you a good read on where teams are going to be at. I want to do the Toronto Raptors versus Chicago Bulls game that just aired today. And I got to say, there's some things that I'm a little concerned about with the Toronto Raptors. I'm a little concerned about. I'm going to dive into that in this video. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Bulls as well and what I liked and didn't like. But I'm going to focus a little bit more on the Raptors for this one. One, let's just, get it out the way. Definitely a fan of the organization and the team that they've been able to put together. Definitely in Masai Ujiri we trust. He's done a phenomenal job with this franchise. But some of the things that we questioned about the team last year in terms of depth, reliable shooting, playmaking, facilitating, rebounding. I don't know if they've addressed those things. And I want to talk about the first one here is facilitating. Facilitating isn't just somebody who can set up an offense, but it's somebody who knows where the ball needs to go and when it needs to go there. They're the individual who notices who has the hot hand, who has the mismatch, who is in the best scoring position to maximize their talent, not just happens to be open. And there was a few times when I was watching this game that I understood the offensive uh, kind of theory of having five guys who can play make, who can attack, pass, distribute, do all these different things, shoot, hopefully. Um, and then that creates a lot of mismatches. But the problem I was noticing was that the players themselves didn't always seem to know who actually had the mismatch. Like, I think there's a level of, irrational confidence that's really good, that usually bodes well for players being able to elevate their game and their talent. But what it also does is it sometimes puts you in a bad spot because guys believe in themselves more than what they're necessarily at a position that they can consistently produce in what they believe. And let me just give you an example. OG Anunoby gets the ball on the perimeter. He's matched up against Patrick Williams. And he looks to take him off the dribble. Now, I'm not saying OG Anunoby cannot take Patrick Williams off the dribble. But I'm saying is that if there was probably a more equal matchup on the court, this was it. This was probably the Bulls' best perimeter defender on probably the Raptors' weakest perimeter playmaker. And it's not to say he's not able to do it. It's to say that their best defender versus your weakest playmaker, that's not a mismatch. That's hoping you can do something with the ball. Now, of course, he doesn't score on this play, and it goes back the other way. But there were many plays like this. There were times where we would see Gary Trent Jr., right, trying to take Patrick Williams off the dribble, or Zach LaVine off the dribble. And they're having to dribble 3, 4, 5, 6 times, doing 2 to 3 different moves just to be able to get to the basket or to get into a shot. That's not a quality possession. And I mentioned this last time that I was hoping that I would see a lot more off the ball movement and swinging of the ball. And I did see a little bit more of that. But what I'm realizing is that the Toronto Raptors have guys, even though they're developing, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby, Precious Achua, even Pascal Siakam. These guys are not natural playmakers. They are not natural facilitators, which means that their ability to read the defense is somewhat limited. It's not a natural instinct. It's more of something that they've been honing. And you see Pascal Siakam, he's gotten better and better and better at it over the years. And now he's pretty efficient at it. But it's not natural for him. And the difference is they don't always see how to best take advantage of the defense. They don't always best see where the mismatch is so that they can run a highly efficient offense. Right now, there's probably two guys on the court who are natural facilitators who are getting a lot of playing time, and that's Scotty Barnes and that's Fred VanVleet. I'm even watching the replay right now as I do this video, and I'm watching Gary Trent Jr. just kind of lazily swing the ball right into the hands of a defender, DeMar DeRozan, and he goes to the other end. Like, knowing how to spread the ball around, how to facilitate, is something that I would say is probably a weakness in terms of the depth of talent they have to be able to do so on this roster. Now, I like Delano Banton a lot too, but I think that they need to commit more to him and give him a lot more minutes, especially with this starting unit, because you don't really want OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr. bringing the ball up and being your primary facilitators. It does not come natural to them. And considering that you have a dynamic where Gary Trent Jr. is in a contract year trying to get his money, OG Anunoby is trying to prove he still deserves to be a starter, even though he could probably sense himself being squeezed out of this role. You have guys who are, I'm not going to say not team focused, but they might have their own agenda on the court that may not be for the betterment of the team in terms of winning. Now, I'm not saying that they're not team players, but what I am saying is that the fact that they're not natural facilitators and they may have their own motivation to be even more aggressive and have a little tunnel vision, right? It may cause for some really bad possessions. And I noticed quite a few. Some went in, some didn't. But when you're doing 5 to 6 dribbles, making 3 to 4 moves to get off a shot, that's not a quality possession. The second thing that I noticed in this game, I'm still kind of struggling to see Pascal Siakam as that go-to guy. And when I say go-to guy, this isn't about if he can get his shot off in one-to-one situations where he needs to play make for himself to get off a quality shot. He can do that. What I'm saying is when the other team's star begins to elevate their game and they begin to take over as DeMar DeRozan did in the second half of this game, right? He began to score back-to-back, or he was assisting, or he was getting key steals, he was getting to the rack, he was beginning to impose his will on the game. Pascal was almost nowhere to be found. And I say almost because he hit a 3 throughout that stretch, right? But you didn't see him noticing their lead was slipping away and say, oh, give me the ball. I need to make sure that we maintain this lead. Give me the ball. I need to make sure that we make the correct play, that we get the high percentage shot. Give me the ball. Get out the way. I'm going to make sure that we make a play, that we put ourselves in a position to make sure that we can score so that our lead doesn't continue to dwindle away. He wasn't able to do that. In fact, he didn't even really demand the ball to ensure he was in a position to do that. And so who is that guy going to be? That question is still there for this team. Who's going to be the guy when the other team's best player begins to take over the game? Your team's best player has an answer, right? Remember back in the day, we used to have guys like The Truth or AI, The Answer, right? But guys had these nicknames because if you had a guy, they had a response. And you knew that they could respond. You knew that they could get theirs. You knew that they would be able to answer the bell when another all-star began to get off and do what they do. Now, the last thing I want to point out with the Toronto Raptors is depth. Now, last season, they went really hard. Let's be totally clear. Nick Nurse, he went Tom Thibodeau last season, straight up. He went and he played his guys. I mean, I'm not going to say he ran them into the ground. But, you saw the proof was in the pudding. Fred VanVleet, his injuries in the second half of the season was an overuse injury. It was a fatigue injury, playing a lot of minutes. And when you see guys like Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet playing huge minutes, that has to be a concern. That has to be a concern. Now, one season you did it, you got to the 5th seed in the playoffs, dope. But you're supposed to be the guy that's developing, right? I thought it was Dwayne Casey as much as Nick Nurse, but a lot of people like to give the credit for development to Nick Nurse. But I would say that Nick Nurse has struggled to continue to develop a lot of the younger guys later on after he took over as head coach, almost as if there became a different focus to say like, hey, I think we can win, so we're going to start playing to win versus developing guys. Now, if that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing, right? But it's to say that they're not going to be able to go through another season playing Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet 38, 39 minutes a game. That's not going to work. that's not going to benefit them. What they're going to have to do is begin to rely upon a bench. They're going to have to begin to rely upon guys to make that difference and say, hey, we trust you. We trust you to make the difference. And so that's what I'm going to be looking out for. I thought Delano Banton played really well in this game. He had some great takes to the basket. You can tell he's really beginning to build his confidence and being able to get to the rim. He still has that facilitating ability, which really creates havoc for the defense, because when he begins to drive to the basket, they know he can make that pass to the open man. And at 6'10", he can throw it right over the top of the defense. And so I liked what I saw out of him. Precious Achiuwa, man, he had a lot of tunnel vision. A lot of tunnel vision. I mean, he was straight up, every time he got the ball, he was just looking to score. And I think that dynamic is a little bit contrary to what they're trying to do in terms of having multiple playmakers, multiple facilitators that could ensure that guys were able to move the ball around and they can get a quality shot, right? Instead, you have quite a few key guys who, when they get the ball, they're looking to score. And it's good to be looking to score, but you also have to balance that out with also seeing who's the open man and where is the best play. Is it swinging the ball? Is it looking for the back door? Is looking for a post up? And speaking of post ups, man, they were forcing the ball into the post. I know they've been struggling with their 3-point shot, and that's something else to really look at. But it's to say that they were forcing the ball into the post quite a lot, trying to throw the ball in at bad angles, not seeing if a guy really had a mismatch, and trying to throw it over the top over very athletic defenders. I thought that was just, probably wasn't the wisest a decision, and it's making for a pretty inefficient offense. And I think that that's what we're seeing a lot in this preseason. This offense is not as efficient as we would like it to be, and for it to be what we're hoping, whereas it can compete against the best teams in the playoffs, right? Then we're also looking for efficiency, because that's what the playoffs is about. How do you get easy shots, the easier shots as much as possible, and then go to the well of the one-on-one playmaking when you have to? So these are some of the things that I want to look at as the preseason continues, going into the regular season. I definitely want to see who kind of gets those minutes. Christian Coloco, he struggled a little bit in this game. He had a nice block, but you can tell he's still figuring it out. And I still think that backup center position is still Chris Boucher's to lose, because he's just a lot more consistent and he knows his role. But I definitely want to see them using a deeper bench earlier, a lot earlier. And then I also want to see some more movement, like I said, off the ball. And I also think having a more structured offense where you have set guys looking to do certain things, whether it's Fred and Gary Trent Jr. looking to shoot off the ball or swing the ball, while you have Pascal and Scotty looking to drive and play make more. I think that's going to help with getting some more quality threes and upping their team 3-point field goal percentage. Because right now, you don't want to have your best shooters looking to attack the rim nonstop, like Gary Trent Jr. was doing a lot of, right? You want your best shooters hunting their shot. And then if it gets cut off, then playmaking, right? And I think that a simple change like that might really help, right? Like I used to coach, we used to run the read and react when it was just coming out. And it's a beautiful offensive system that really teaches you how to read the floor and really play like veterans. But a part of that is also knowing your strength and knowing how to apply your strength to your team's betterment. And from that point, being able to read and react. If you're a shooter, you're reacting to the defense to hunt for your shot as a shooter, right? Not to drive to the basket just because you've been working on it. Like I said in the beginning, I love what Masai Ujiri is doing and Nick Nurse is trying to do with having 5 guys that can do all the above. But it doesn't mean that doing everything is for the betterment of this team. But as always, I want to know what you all think. What did you all think of this preseason? What did you think of what you saw with the offense and its efficiency, playmaking, different things like that? I know I said I was going to talk about the Bulls. Lackluster. They're all right. They're a lot deeper than I initially thought. Patrick Williams, I'm starting to second guess. Is he going to be good, or is he going to be the next Marvin Williams who's drafted really high and never quite becomes more than just a role player. But yeah, outside of that, DeRozan did what DeRozan does. Levine does what he does. We'll have to see them put it together in the regular season and see where they end up. But with that, I'm going to jump off. Holler at me in the comment section. I'm going to get at y'all next time. Like, subscribe, and I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace.